House historically, it galvanizes, and this is what we see in midterm elections too, it galvanizes the other party to, like, you know,
turnout.
Yeah, the turnout is galvanized. People are motivated by the fact it's like, we don't want another one of these, right?
Right, absolutely.
So heading into this election, there's 11 congressional districts in Virginia. I don't know that people are aware of that, but 11 congressional districts in Virginia. Out of that congressional district, I would mention a couple of things, like we've only got one woman out of that, and she is in a very competitive race.
We're guaranteed to keep a woman.
That's right, with LuAnn Bennett. So let's talk about a little bit about how Virginia looks. So Virginia looks on paper, and I think we have a map here of our congressional districts that we can show you, that when you look at the congressional districts in Virginia, we are not very blue. I mean, people talk about Virginia as being a blue state. Look at this, you know, the last two presidential elections, blue, governor blue. But if you look at how Virginia looks, it's very red, and some of these districts are huge in the rural areas, like the 9th district, the Fighting 9th down in Southwest Virginia, and the 5th, which runs down the center of the state. And so it becomes increasingly, in these more rural parts of the state, finding candidates that can fill these seats. So the little blue areas that we see on that map are very densely, highly populated areas of the state. So in this one particular race that's gotten a lot of national attention, it's LuAnn Bennett and Barbara Comstock. Do a little prognosticating on exactly how you think this may go.
Well, this is one where the DCCC, which is the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, targeted early on. They recruited LuAnn Bennett to run long before anyone in Northern Virginia that had known her from her prior political involvement. You know, she had been married to Congressman Moran.
Correct.
So many people knew her from that, but they didn't realize that she was interested in running for office herself. She was being trained by the DCCC last year before anyone even knew she has an interest in the seat. She moved out to Virginia to run, and I think on paper would be not the strongest Democratic candidate. However, where the DCCC saw a strength in her of why they wanted her to run is, number one, she had an ability to do some self-funding, which she's done a limited amount of, and number two, that with Trump potentially being the Republican candidate for president, that the 10th district might be in a wave type of year. Obviously, educated white women are Trump's biggest weakness in this election. The population of the 10th district is full of educated white women. And so Barbara Comstock knows that Hillary Clinton is going to carry her district. The question is by how much, and how much can she break that ticket voting. Now, LuAnn Bennett has raised less money than Comstock for her own campaign committee, but the DCCC has come in to back her up to sort of even things out. The DCCC's messaging is a little bit more difficult when you're a candidate because you're not controlling it.
Right.
And so it's hard to tell, you know, if Miss Bennett supports exactly what's being said. I think it's somewhat her message that they've got, but it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more generic. And I thought when LuAnn was on television, and if you notice, she hasn't been on TV in a while. The DCCC has been on TV the last couple of weeks because she sort of ran out of money. When LuAnn was on with her own TV ads, I felt like early in this race she made a big strategic error. The first TV ad was about how we don't need partisanship. Her whole path to victory was partisanship.
Being carried by the wave of a Democratic victory in that district.
Right, so making this argument that voters should be looking beyond party, it was almost like it was Barbara Comstock's message. And I'm sure it tests well in a poll. You know, if you ask people, would you like to look beyond party? You know, yes, I would. But her message needed to be, I think, more directly to voters, and it's what the message has turned into in the last few weeks here. If you're voting for Hillary, you should vote for me because we need to make her successful. And that's a stronger message than we don't need partisanship, because we don't need partisanship as a Barbara Comstock message. And Barbara's a bad messenger for that message, being someone who was very involved in the Clinton investigations in the 90s. In this district, she should be on paper toast. Because you would not think that someone who is involved in investigating Hillary Clinton and the Clintons would be winning Clinton crossover voters to win re-election. But somehow she's sort of doing it, and I think it's because the Democrats are letting her do it. I will tell you, Catherine, I've been surprised. I'd heard for years about, never lived in any of Barbara's districts. I just moved there this year. What a great constituent service she had and how she was always on the ground and people saw her everywhere. I've barely seen her since I moved to the 10th. I'm at a lot of functions because, you know, I work in...
Right.
And I've been shocked at how little I've seen her. I will tell you that I had to do some outreach to her office earlier this year on a constituent issue, and they never got back with me. And I called a couple other people who had mutual contacts with the office to say, hey, they never got back with me. And they said, well, they're not always comfortable calling back Democrats. And I'm like, whoa, all right, this, you know.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, you know, just, so I don't think that her reputation holds up when you watch it of what her office does. At least her staff certainly doesn't hold it up. But you know, for voters in a presidential year, they don't see this up close. In an off year, when you get lower turnout, you get more educated voters that know the candidates. This is voters that are just going on gut feeling based on TV ads. Right. I think Barbara's had better TV ads, and I think she goes into Election Day with a slight advantage over LuAnn for that reason. However, if Hillary Clinton can win the district by double digits, it's going to be virtually mathematically impossible for Comstock to hang on.
All right, so let's talk about another